Hello crafters and welcome back to the This Calls for Confetti YouTube channel. My name is Deepa from Designs by D and I'm so happy you've joined me today. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and we're going to take a look at this fun card today. So this is a card featuring the products from the March release, and it has tons of flow going on with all of those gears and flourishing elements coming out from the clock. I'm going to show you how to create this look for yourself. So these are the products that we're going to be looking at today. As I said, these ones are from the March collection, Moments in Time. The first set here I have is the Every Moment stamp set and the die set, which cuts out everything from the stamp set, everything, including the sentiments. And then I've got the Moments in Time die set, which is the star of our card. And then we've got the Spring Balcony and Spring Has Sprung die set. So it's cover plate and a die set. And I'm just going to be using elements from these to create some interest in the background of my card. So let's go ahead and get started. First thing I want to do is I want to cut everything out. So I've got my color scheme going. I've got some peaches, beiges, and then I've got that kind of copper toned cardstock there. And I've cut out all of my pieces, all of my gears. I've got all the little elements from the Spring Has Sprung cover plate and the clock all ready to go. Now there is one circle die in the Moments in Time die set that can be used with the Every Moment stamp set. And there are gears included in the die set to kind of do the hands of the clock. You can use that if you want, or you can use this method where you stamp out the pocket watch from the stamp set, just that circular portion where it has the clock face on it, and then you can use this on your card instead. So I'm just using some deep brown ink here and I'm stamping out the clock face, and you can see how perfectly it stamps on that circle. It's the exact right size, so do make sure to line it up perfectly. Now the next thing I'm going to do is assemble my clock. And the way that I'm going to do this here is with some foam adhesive. So I'm using a bit of some foam squares. You could just cut out some craft foam and then just use some glue on either side if you want a cheaper alternative. And then I'm just placing down the clock face on the dial, and then I can go ahead and place the dial on top of that copper piece that I cut out, and then this goes on the actual background of the clock, which I've cut out in like a peachy tone. It's like a very light peach. And you'll notice that I've kept the colors on the clock very neutral. And there's a reason for this, because even though this clock is like the focal point of our card, the flourishing movement and all of those gears is what actually is going to make this card really stand out. So they both work together. They have to be used together in order to get the right effect, but meaning they're as equally as important as each other. But like I said, the neutral colors on the clock are probably the way you want to go. So I've chosen to use beiges and peaches. You can use any other neutral colors you might want to use. And you'll notice anywhere that I feel that I can, I'm using these foam squares for dimension. So everything is pretty much flat. The smallest clock face that we stamped out is propped up, and then the little bells at the top of this older antique, I would say, clock are what I'm propping up here. And it also just makes it easier to attach them, I think, as well. Now for my card base, I'm using a white top folding landscape card base, and my background is a full like beige color. It's the same beige that we used on the clock, and this is a 5.5 by 4.25 inch card panel. I'm using the balcony from the Spring Balcony set as just kind of like a backdrop. So this is like a fun way to extend the length of your products, because instead of this being a balcony, it makes like a fun little design in the background there, which I think is really cool. So we'll go ahead and attach our clock right on top of this. I'm not adding any foam adhesive. I'm just flat laying this with some liquid glue. As I mentioned, it is part of being the star of the show. It is about the clock, but it's got to go with those gears to get that perfect look. Now I'm going to stamp out my sentiment first, so I know where I'm going to place everything. I'm taking it from the Every Moment stamp set, and I'm going to go ahead and just stamp that out with the same brown that I used on the center of the clock. Again, everything is neutral except those gears, which help it stand out. Now, if you wanted the sentiment to stand out a little more, what I might suggest is maybe embossing it with some clear embossing powder or using a brown embossing powder, which would give you a really fun look as well. I am just stamping it plainly. So now we have our backdrop all ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and attach it to my white card base, as I mentioned, top folding landscape, 4¼ by 5½. And now we want to get started on our flourishing embellishments. So the best tip that I can give you getting started here is to decide on the way you want things to flow in your card. So create an imaginary line around the clock in your head. Do you want it to go diagonally down, vertically up? I've shown you this arrow where I want it to go on my card. And it's going to go basically from the top left down towards the bottom of the clock, but that's not all. There's going to be more, but I'll get to that in a minute. My next tip is to lay everything down exactly how you want it to look. That way you can adjust things and move things without worrying about it already being adhered. And as you're laying things down, be sure that you're mixing up and varying the colors of the gears as you layer them. You don't want to layer 3 colors of the same gear on top of each other because it loses the randomness and the organic look of it. This just creates nice visual depth and interest. So we're going to go ahead and, as you can see, also try and line up the little crinkle cuts of the gears, like the little, like how the gears kind of fit together and turn when one turns, the other one turns. Try and fit them together like that too. That's a little fun. Overall, you want to maintain that movement that I was talking about, and you want to get the layering on there with the varying colors to create the perfect look. Now, there are 2 methods to gluing this down. One, you can work in sections like me and just secure each gear as you place them down, just as you had placed it before. Or if you don't really trust yourself in putting everything back the way you had it, then what you can do is maybe, one, you can take a picture of it and then follow your picture as you're placing it down. Or the second method is to use press and seal. So what you do is you create your layout, put the press and seal on top, press everything down so you pick it up on the press and seal. Then on the back of those gears, add glue, place the entire layout back down on the card, give it a little bit of time and pressure to adhere to the card, and then remove the press and seal and carefully secure down any overlapping pieces where you didn't get glue on it before you placed it down on the card. And that, I would say, is the easiest way if you don't want to kind of move things around and replace them as you're gluing them down. Another fun tip that I have here is that as you're gluing down your gears, you might want to add some small, tiny adhesive foam squares to the gears to add just a little bit of dimension. On some of the pieces, you'll notice like that top light pink one, the one at the very top of this card right by the sentiment, I've added it, and it just creates a lot more dimension. It creates a bit of fun. And as I said, it kind of makes the gears stand out a little more. Now, one more tip I have for you is don't limit yourself to that single line or imaginary curve that you drew in your head in the beginning for the movement. As you can see here, the movement is curving downwards, but then right at the bottom, I've got some gears kind of coming out from the bottom downwards. And then I also think I placed like a couple gears on the top right of the clock there, right underneath that right bell, just to create continuity in your design. So you don't only have all the gears on the on the left side of the card. It kind of flows past the clock, behind the clock, and then kind of comes out behind the bell on the right side. So that's how you make that flow of the gears kind of continue from one side of the card to the other. And the reason why that's important is because it draws the viewer's eye from the sentiment to the gears to the clock, and like gives you kind of like a visual experience by looking at this card, by kind of following those gears and the elements around. So as you can see now, I'm adding that gear behind that bell as I talked about. Very important. And if you want to make it even more continuous and random, more organic, you can actually put the gear hanging off the edge and maybe cut off part of it so that you know that this is just like a portion of the image, right? So like there's more to it, and it just kind of helps with the imagination. Another tip I have is that you want to add other elements of interest too. We don't just want it to be the gear. So you'll notice from that Spring Has Sprung cover plate, I've got the little flowers, and I'm keeping them white because, again, the gears are the star of the show besides the clock. And I'm just kind of adding them in the different sizes, varying the sizes, just like the gears are different sizes, and placing them around the design. And that kind of creates just a little bit more interest. So now we've got the clock, all the clock stuff. We've got that nice pattern in the background from the balcony, and then you've got these fun flowers there. And I think the white kind of breaks up the design just a little bit and adds a bit more fun to it. Now, the final thing to add, as I mentioned, was not just the flowers, but embellishments. So we've got some pink confetti glitter here, and I'm going to add some of this as well, just like bits here and there. Again, use the varying sizes, and it just pulls everything together and gives it a bit of extra shine and sparkle because of the glitter in that confetti. So these are basically all of the tips that I have for this card for you today in order to create that movement behind the clock and give it a nice like whimsical feel. It makes it look really nice. I hope that these tips are something that you can use to create something similar like this, and makes it a little easier for you. You can employ these tips for any type of design where you have some type of flourishing element in the background. I'm also using a black pen here. This is a acid-free pen, and it's basically just adding some interest to those white flowers, creating the centers and a little bit more to make them stand out a bit. And that is my final card for you today. So as I mentioned, I hope that this has sparked your interest and has inspired you to create something similar. Everything that has been used from the TCFC store is linked down in the description down below. Don't forget to check those out. This Moments in Time collection is really fun, and I hope you'll give it a try. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you again later. Bye.